It was September 17th, around 4:20 p.m., when I saw the red Honda CR-V parked behind the barn, my son's with the dent on the left fender he never fixed. That spot wasn't for guests. It was where we used to stack hay bales in the 90s. My brother had pulled up just minutes earlier in his old Silverado, waving a small gift bag like some excited kid. He looked happy. Then he froze. He didn't say a word, just tilted his head toward the barn and mouthed, "Is that?" I didn't answer. I was holding the dish towel like it could explain something. Inside the house, the oven timer beeped. Chicken thighs at 375 degrees. I'd been basting them every 10 minutes like Mom used to. And still no knock at the door. No happy birthday, Mom. Just me. And silence. Except it wasn't silence. It was their laughter coming faintly through the barn wall. I didn't cry because I was hurt. I cried because I wasn't surprised. I think that's worse. I had told myself for weeks, maybe this year they'll make time. I should have known when they texted. We might swing by instead of calling. But I still set the table cleaned. The front porch refilled the cinnamon jar he liked as a boy. My brother stood there, gift in hand, watching me wipe my eyes too late. He said, "You want me to stay?" And I just nodded. Quiet. Embarrassed he saw me like that. And here's the thing. If it was just about me, I could let it go. But why hide the car? Why come early and not inside? Why act like I wasn't part of this day? You say we're family, but if that's true, why does it feel like I need an appointment to be seen? Maybe I should have spoken up years ago when she first rolled her eyes during grace. Maybe I shouldn't have ignored the tone she used when she said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of the land." God, I hate how long I let it slide. I'm not here to paint myself as clever. I missed signs. I was scared of pushing them away. Scared I'd lose my grandbaby if I said too much. But my brother saw it all that afternoon, without needing a word. And when I stepped outside, finally, he didn't ask anything. He just reached for the casserole dish, like he knew we'd have to pretend a little longer, until I checked the voicemail later that night. The chicken was done by 5:10 p.m. I'd basted it 4 times, used the paprika rub I saw on a cooking show last week. I'd even put out the placemats, those faded yellow ones my grandson once spilled juice on back when he still called me Nana without rolling his eyes. They texted at 2:03 p.m. Might be late, traffic's weird. But when my brother got there, the red CR-V was already behind the barn. They weren't late. They just weren't here for me. I set out the food anyway. Mashed potatoes, gravy with drippings, green beans with almonds. Nothing fancy, just the stuff he liked as a kid. I placed everything on the table like a woman on autopilot. My hands moved. My throat stayed tight. They came in at 5:40, laughing, not even trying to hide the barn dust on their shoes. My daughter-in-law handed me a bottle of grocery store wine and said, "You didn't have to go all out." I didn't say anything, because if I had opened my mouth, I would have said too much, or worse, cried again. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, quick and quiet, while scrolling something on his phone. That was after I'd already wiped my nose in the kitchen and told my brother I'd just caught a whiff of pepper. You ever notice how they say we're family when they want something, but never when you need anything back? If I'm so important, why am I always the afterthought? If I matter, why do I feel like I'm being tolerated in my own parents' house? My cousin Denise called that night. She missed the dinner. When I told her what happened, she went quiet, then said, "Girl, you should have ordered Popeyes and locked the door." And she laughed, but not in a mean way. In a, "you deserve better and you know it" kind of way. And still, I kept pouring gravy, kept placing forks, kept asking my grandson about school, like I hadn't just eaten shame in the form of garlic bread. Later that night, when I did the dishes alone, I realized something ugly. I'd seen the signs before. Her tone, his avoidance, That weird phone call in April when they asked if the land title was still in my name for tax reasons. But I wanted the moment. Just one birthday with peace. So I played along until I heard the voicemail. I stepped out around 3:45 p.m. that afternoon to check if the wind had knocked over the flower arrangements. That's when I saw the red Honda again, same scratch on the back bumper, same parking spot behind the barn, like it was hiding something, like I was supposed to stay inside and not notice. It had rained 2 days earlier, and the grass still had tire tracks. They didn't just arrive. They'd been here a while. Their voices came through the barn slats. Not whispers. Laughter. Her laugh sharp and light. His voice lower familiar. They were talking about something working out better this way. I stood still. At first I told myself maybe they were planning a surprise, but my stomach already knew, and my fingers started shaking again. What hurt wasn't the secrecy. What hurt was knowing they didn't even bother to cover it well. Like I was too old, too slow, too eager to see anything but what they chose to show me. Like the birthday lunch was a formality for me to feel included, while the real plans had already happened. Later that evening, when I finally said something small, just I saw your car was already here earlier. My son blinked, then said, "Oh, we were just walking around. Dee wanted to check out the barn." No apology, no pause, just a script. If we're family, why does everything feel like a performance? And if they did nothing wrong, why lie? My friend Mary, who dropped off a $25 Target card that morning, said one line that stuck. If they act like you're invisible, maybe they think you won't remember what you own. I laughed, but it didn't feel funny. I should have asked more questions when they offered to handle the taxes this year, or when they said I didn't need to worry about that stuff anymore. I thought they were helping. I didn't want to seem suspicious. God, I hate how polite I've trained myself to be. But I didn't speak up that night. I just put on lipstick before we took the photo. Berry pink. The shade Evelyn always said made me look less tired. Because I knew I'd need that photo later, when things stopped pretending to be normal. The voicemail came in at 6:12 p.m. mid-dinner, right after I asked my grandson how baseball tryouts were going. My phone buzzed on the counter. I tapped it without thinking, trying to silence the vibration, and hit play by accident. But it wasn't a new message. It was from earlier that afternoon. I guess my son hadn't realized the call hadn't fully disconnected. At first, just footsteps. Then her voice clear, "Don't worry, your mom won't even notice. She'll be too busy trying to be useful." His response? A little laugh. Not loud, not cruel, just agreement. Like she was stating a fact, not an insult. Like I was a harmless background character in a story they already wrote without me. I didn't pause the message. I didn't make a scene. I just excused myself and let it keep playing in my ear as I stepped into the laundry room. They thought I didn't hear, but I did. And the worst part wasn't the words. It was realizing they believed them. When I came back, no one asked why I left. They were too busy pouring soda into the mismatched plastic cups I set out. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just saved the voicemail. Pressed the little icon that said, "Keep." Funny how fast that became instinct. I told Denise the next morning. She was the one who helped me print the transcript. Her only words, "Frame it if you have to." Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You giving them that much room just made them think it was theirs. They say family doesn't need proof." Okay, then why is it always me being asked to trust, while they move things around behind my back? If everything's above board, why lie about the barn? Why mock the one person who stocked the freezer last winter when their pipes burst? I felt ashamed. Not because they said it, but because I had wondered the same thing myself, that maybe if I stayed useful, I'd be needed. And if I was needed, they wouldn't push me out. I didn't delete the voicemail. And I didn't tell them I heard it. Because I knew something else was coming. It was the day after they left. April 9th, 7:20 a.m. The casserole was still wrapped in foil in the fridge. I poured myself a coffee, the kind that sits too long in the pot and tastes like regret. Then I opened the old accordion folder I kept in the kitchen drawer, the one labeled House Plus Taxes. Not a secure place, I know, but it had been good enough when I trusted everyone who came through that door. I sat at the table with my reading glasses and a small flashlight. My kitchen light flickers, always has. I flipped through envelopes, receipts, a water bill from 2018. Then I saw it. A form from the county clerk's office. My name typed neatly. Below it, another line, add joint authorization, Emily D. Monroe. I paused. That's my daughter-in-law. And under it, my signature. Or something close. It looked like mine. The loop on the L was too sharp, but everything else was close enough to pass if you weren't really looking. But I am now. I scanned the date, November 3rd. That's the week I had bronchitis and was on cough meds. I remember because I slept on the couch for 3 days. Did they hand me something to just sign while I was half awake? I called Rick, my tax guy. He came by that afternoon in his rusted silver Tacoma and looked through the form. This adds her to decision authority for property transfer. Technically, it's not full ownership, but it gives her leverage. I asked him straight, if she and my son are paying the taxes, does that make it their right? He shook his head. Nope, unless you signed away ownership. Did you? I didn't answer. I just stared at the paper. My name, her name, both highlighted now in yellow. It made my chest ache, not just from what they did, but because I should have known better. I wanted to believe help meant love, but maybe it just meant control. I copied the document and slid it into a red folder. I didn't tell anyone yet, because I wasn't done reading. I found it by accident. April 12th, around 11:15 a.m. I was on the county recorder's website trying to pull up property tax records just to see what was in my name. My printer had run out of ink, so I drove to Staples in town to grab a new black cartridge HP 63XL, $42.99. Came back loaded. It sat down with a fresh coffee and clicked, download deed. My jaw clenched before I even finished scrolling. There it was, page 2, third clause. Portion of parcel 12A retained by co-owner under survivor's rights. The co-owner, my mother. And right under that, in the 2003 revision, she filed before passing my name. I'd been living like a guest on land that partially belonged to me. Land they always referred to as theirs. Every family BBQ, every conversation about the future of the place, it was always, when we fix the barn, we'll probably remodel the back house too. Or, we've talked about maybe renting out part of the land. Never once a we that included me. And I never questioned it. I didn't want to make waves. I thought I was being gracious. But now I could ask, if it was always your land, why's my name on this clause? Or better, if I never owned anything, why did your grandma file to protect my portion? I called my cousin Linda, who used to work in real estate law. She came by with her dog Jasper and skimmed the document in about 2 minutes. You've had leverage for years, she said, sipping from her thermos. They were just betting you'd never find it. I should have known. I should have checked years ago. I let politeness keep me small. I let the word family blur every line they crossed. And I hate admitting this, but part of me still worries. If I act on this, do I lose my son for good? I didn't decide anything yet. I just printed 3 copies and slid one onto the fridge. I called them on a Thursday, April 18th, around 4:35 p.m. Told them I wanted to talk, clear the air. I said, just a quiet sit down. I'll make coffee. My son said sure, and my daughter-in-law replied from the background, we'll bring the wine. I didn't say no. Let them feel in charge. That Saturday, I cleaned the house early. washed the guest towels, polished the old wood table, baked a lemon cake from scratch, one I hadn't made since before my husband passed. At 1:45 p.m., I texted Carol, my next-door neighbor. She used to work at the county clerk's office. I didn't tell her everything, just enough. She walked over with her cane and her big brown purse and said, "I'll just act like I dropped by." They pulled up in that black 2021 Highlander like it was a royal visit. Walked in laughing like nothing had ever gone wrong. I smiled. I poured coffee. I placed the sugar bowl in the center, and underneath it, just peeking out, a copy of the deed with my name and the clause in bold. Carol didn't say a word. She just sat there sipping, nodding politely. Then I said, "Before we chat, I want to ask something simple. If this is all really yours, why does the record say otherwise?" My son blinked. Emily reached for the sugar. Her fingers paused. I didn't move. Neither did Carol. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Finally said, "Mom, you don't understand how these things work." I looked straight at him. "Then explain it, because it looks like I've owned part of this land all along." Carol leaned in. "And this clause is valid unless revoked by her, not you two." I watched his face shift. Not rage, calculation. Like something just got harder for him. Later that night, I sat on the porch and cried, not from power, but from shame. I'd let them talk over me so long I almost forgot what being heard sounded like. The deed stayed on the table while I washed the mugs. I didn't put it away yet. Emily took a long sip from her wine glass, then laughed too loudly. "When this place is ours, first thing we're doing is gutting that sad little kitchen. I can't live with those fake wood cabinets." She said it like I wasn't even there. I was refilling the coffee pot, maybe 5 feet away. Carol shifted in her seat and cleared her throat, one of those small coughs people use when they want to say something, but choose not to. My son caught it. His face twitched just a little. I saw him glance down at the sugar bowl. The paper was gone. I'd already tucked the deed into my cardigan pocket, folded neat. I asked, "If you two are so sure you'll be living here, why is it my name still printed on the county file?" I wasn't yelling. Just asking. Just placing the question down the way you'd put a glass on the table, deliberate, without shaking. He looked irritated. "Mom, it's just a matter of timing. We were always going to talk to you about it. And when would that be? Before or after the renovation?" Emily scoffed. "It's not like you use the kitchen much." That stung. I felt my ears burn. I still remember that Saturday morning in February, Feb 3rd, when I made blueberry pancakes at 7:10 a.m. just to surprise my grandson before soccer. She told him I was old school and threw them out. Carol cut in soft but steady. "You know what I think folks say family like it's supposed to mean unquestioned access?" I bit the inside of my cheek. Hard. Not just from what they said now, but from the dozens of little signs I'd ignored. The Venmo requests, the missing groceries, the jokes about Mom's last good year. My son stood up and said, "Maybe we should go." I didn't stop them. As I wiped the counter, I thought I let this stretch too far, hoping kindness would fix what only boundaries could. The dishes were still warm when I opened my laptop and searched for a title lawyer. I parked the Camry outside Sanderson and Lee at exactly 2:15 p.m. on March 4th. The receptionist offered me lemon water. I declined. My hands were too clenched to hold the glass steady anyway. Inside the lawyer, Mara, late 30s, no-nonsense, reviewed the deed I brought in a manila folder. She squinted at the margins, nodded, and said, "We can tighten this." "You want full control back?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." Quietly. We drafted new documents that same day, updated ownership rights, revoked their power to sell, lease, refinance anything without my notarized consent. The clause from my mother's will was still valid. We just made it visible, tangible. I signed in blue ink. Mara slid the final page toward me. "It's not revenge," she said. "It's called boundaries on paper." She offered to call them directly. I shook my head. Let the silence do the talking. That night, I microwaved leftover pot roast and sat at the table alone. A part of me wanted to call my son and explain. But then I remembered the tone he used when he said, "You don't need to be involved in everything, Mom." Like I was noise. Like I was past tense. Truth is, I kept hoping they'd remember I was still a person. Not just a signature. Not just a free ride. I blamed myself too. I'd handed over too much without asking questions. I wanted peace more than clarity. And that silence cost me. 2 days later, Emily called. I let it ring. Then came the follow-up text. "Hey, can we talk about the refinance?" It's time sensitive. I forwarded the updated deed through certified mail instead. With a sticky note, "All decisions now require written consent. Love, Mom." Later that week, Carol dropped off a bag of oranges and said, "You know, you didn't owe them that courtesy. But you did it anyway. That's the difference." I just nodded, then opened the drawer, pulled out the third copy, and clipped it to a fresh folder. Because I knew what was coming next, and I wasn't going to meet it empty-handed. November 23rd. I set the table for 4. Not out of hope, just habit. The turkey cost $67.28 from Henderson's Market, smaller than usual. No stuffing, no fancy desserts, just garlic green beans, mashed potatoes, and one pie from the freezer aisle. I kept the dining room simple. The chair at the head of the table mine. I didn't send out invites. I told my brother to come if he wanted, and I texted Carol next door to drop by if she had time. My son and Emily. I didn't reach out. Last year I begged them to come. This year, I didn't even bring them up. When Carol arrived with a bottle of sparkling apple cider, she looked around and said, "You expecting anyone else?" I shook my head. "Just people who don't want anything signed." We ate at 2:30 sharp. My brother carved the turkey. Carol brought cranberry sauce in a chipped bowl. We passed dishes like normal people. No tension, no fake pleasantries, no pretending. Halfway through the meal, Carol said gently, "I saw their car drive past around noon. Slowed down, didn't stop." I nodded and kept chewing. It stung a little, but not enough to change anything. Letting them in would have meant giving up that seat and everything it stood for. And no, I wasn't ready to explain myself to people who saw me as a roadblock. You know what gets me. They used to call me overbearing when I asked too many questions. But now that I've got answers, I'm cold. Funny how family only wants warmth when they're holding the match. I still miss my grandson. I hate that he's stuck in this mess. That's the part that aches. Maybe I should have stood firmer sooner. Maybe I let too many things slide for peace. After dinner, I cleared the table, rinsed the plates, and poured myself one last mug of coffee. I sat in my chair. I didn't light a candle. I didn't say a word. I just looked across the table at the empty chair and didn't feel the need to fill it. Then I walked into the study and opened the red folder.